So the Mandalorian Season 3 is finally back, and it is awesome to be back in the Mando hype period. So I'll start off with my thoughts. I think it started off fantastic. It was absolutely hyped to see that massive aquatic creature attack the Mandos, and it was nice to see the process of how foundlings become Mandalorian inside of the Children of the Watch cult. Obviously it is a cult, that's not how normal Mandos get taken in. Din Djarin's in a very, very strict religious cult, but it was still awesome to see their process, and it's good to see that the armorer actually does have some maternal emotions. She did go to save the kid when the creature came up, so that's nice to see. She's not completely cold. I do think the episode did meander a bit in the middle, but the stuff with the pirates was awesome. I want to see that pirate guy, Vane. He was awesome. I hope we see him with Hondo somewhere down the line. I mean, he can show up anywhere. He can show up in the animated shows, the future live action shows, and here's a wildcard theory, but maybe Skeleton Crew actually takes place on the ships of those pirates. I don't know how that would work, I don't know how that would connect, and Skeleton Crew is in the Outer Rim, but wouldn't that be awesome to see a connection to Vane and the pirate crew, and that pirate leader? These costumes, did they use CGI? I'm not actually sure. I think Vane actually did have CGI on his face. I'm not sure on that, but that's cool. But either way, just some things I noticed. At the baptism ceremony, we see the same Mandalorian clan symbols as the scene where Sabine gets the Darksaber in Star Wars Rebels. Or actually, that's where Bo-Katan is crowned the leader of Mandalore and she displays the Darksaber to the Mandalorian clans. In that scene, we see some symbols of some various clans, and if you look at the actual baptism scene, you can see flags with those exact same symbols being brought out. The one that stood out the most to me was Clan Vizsla. That's that little branch symbol you see there. That's really cool. If some members of Clan Vizsla are part of Children of the Watch, it would make sense because Pre-Vizsla started Death Watch, or was part of Death Watch, and the Children of the Watch is just an even more extreme sect of the Death Watch. After that, we see that Grogu is back with Mando. Obviously, if you've seen the Book of Boba Fett, you know exactly how that happened, but just in case you haven't, he went with Luke for a bit, apparently 2 years according to Jon Favreau. That was a huge controversy just before the episode came out, but I might make a video on that. But Mando got pretty upset and pretty lonely without Grogu, so he went to go see him. He brought a gift of chainmail to Grogu. Grogu took the chainmail, and then Luke Skywalker Ubered him back to Tatooine to find Mando with R2-D2, and he didn't come along. That's basically what happened, and now they're back together. But I have a full video explaining everything there if you want more details, so just go to my channel page and you'll see a video, just the one or two before this. After that, we finally get to see what Bo-Katan meant by Mandalore has been shattered. We see that the surface of Mandalore has been crystallized by fusion rays. We don't know exactly what fusion rays are, but we did see Mandalore pretty much getting nuked in the Book of Boba Fett, and we know that nuclear fusion is part of nuclear bombs, so maybe something like that caused the glass on Mandalore. After that, we enter hyperspace, and oh my god, we see Purrgil from Star Wars Rebels. The Purrgil are, they're just hyperspace whales, basically. They're space whales, the old meme. They're pretty much one of the only biological creatures who can enter hyperspace, and they play a very big part in Star Wars Rebels, and they're actually used to save Lothal from orbital bombardment from Grand Admiral Thrawn. Ezra summons them to Lothal, and the Purrgil capture the entire fleet and then bring them out to the Outer Rim. And that's where we're left off with Star Wars Rebels. That is the final scene. Ezra and Thrawn get blasted off to the Outer Rim and nobody knows where they are. And that's why Ahsoka's looking for Thrawn in the Mandalorian Season 2. He asks the Magistrate Morgan Elsbeth, who is a Night Sister by the way, that's my theory. She asks her, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? And that's because she's still looking all of these years later. After that, when we get to Navarro, we see a white protocol droid, which is just like the one from Hoth. If you're a big Empire Strikes Back fan, I mean, who isn't? Then you'll know that the white protocol droid was on Hoth. And that's a nice little connection. That was in the trailer, but it's still nice to see. After that, we also see the cooking droid from the Book of Boba Fett. He was also in Attack of the Clones, I believe. I mean, the scene with Boba Fett and the cooking droid wasn't the best in the Book of Boba, but I guess that's a nice, cool little connection if you've watched both shows. Also in Navarro, we see plenty of Salacious B. Crumb species from Return of the Jedi. This species is known as the Kowakian monkey lizard. After that, we then find out that Navarro is an official trade spur of the Hydean Way. The Hydean Way is a massive hyperspace trade route that spans pretty much the entire eastern side of the galaxy. This is mentioned in so many Legends books, so many canon books too, and it's all of basically most of the galaxy's trade goes through the Hydean Way. If you need to move goods throughout the eastern side of the galaxy, which is where most of the known galaxy is, you're pretty much going through the Hydean Way or a couple of other trade routes, but the Hydean Way is the major one. After that, we find out that the pirate leader is called Pirate King Gorian Shard. I don't know if this is a reference to One Piece with the Pirate King. I mean, Pirate Kings is it's a pretty big thing in mythology, but that was a cool little thing, and the character design was awesome. I love those pirates, I just have to keep saying it. After that, we find out that the magistrate, Grief Karga, or sorry, the High Magistrate, let me get that right, if not Grief Karga's gonna get offended, he has droids that carry around his cape. Now, this is awesome, this is just absolutely hilarious, but it's interesting to see that Navarro is going into excess. They're really a lot of excess, a lot of decadence. That society, the longer this goes on, the quicker that Navarro is going to experience a huge decline. That won't come in Mando Season 3. I love the aesthetic. I think that's going to last for ages, but you should just be careful not spending too much money on useless stuff. Now, after that, we find out some very interesting information. We find out that Moff Gideon is at the New Republic War Crimes Tribunal. We don't know anything about this yet. We haven't really seen this in canon much. We have had some small references to it, where many of the old Imperial Moffs and high-ranking officials were taken in, and then they were tried by the New Republic very fairly, and if they handed over information, they would be given a lenient sentence. If they didn't, they would be much more likely to be executed. Then we also find out that Cara Dune is now in the New Republic Special Forces. I mean, I think that was an okay way to handle it. You can't really kill her off just like that in one line, and you can't really do much more with her. But I think that situation was handled pretty much as best as it could have been. After that, we get to repairing IG-11 using skills that Mando was probably taught by Quill, or at least just by observing him. It was also amazing to see IG-11 go absolutely crazy. Well, not IG-11, just his memory bank when he came off the table. After that, we get a name drop of the droidsmith profession introduced into canon. We haven't really seen this much. It was a profession in Legends, and these guys are absolutely masters of everything to do with droids. From programming, to the robotics, to the photoreceptors, they were absolute masters, and they could craft you a droid that would meet your purposes for anything you needed. After that, Mando gets introduced to Babu Frick from The Rise of Skywalker and a bunch of his species, the Anzellans. This is really cool. I mean, The Rise of Skywalker, not the best movie, but Babu Frick was cute and a lot of people loved him, so that's a nice little reference. And the consistency between his species being a good mechanic species is really cool. After that, we get something massive. If you're a Clone Wars fan, you may not even know this even if you are a Clone Wars fan, but we travel to the planet Kalevala in the Mandalorian system. Now, you might be wondering, wait, when have we heard of this? Well, another question you might have had is, Satine is called Duchess Satine, but what is she the Duchess of? Well, she's not the Duchess of Mandalore, she's the Duchess of Kalevala. She was able to take over the faction of Mandalorians called the New Mandalorians and then take over the rulership of the planet Mandalore, but she wasn't the actual leader of that planet. Her royal titles come from Kalevala, and that is probably the castle that Duchess Satine was in, Bo-Katan's sister. So it's nice to see it staying in the family. It's a really cool castle, really cool planet design, and it's just awesome to get more Mandalorian planet lore. And if you look on the right of Bo-Katan, you can see a sculpture in the back, a piece of artwork that probably depicts the Mandalorian civil wars or the Great Wars with the Jedi. We don't know what time period this comes from, but it's a really cool piece of art, and it's obviously going to be massive to Mandalorian history. We also get the piece of information that the mines of Mandalore are below the Civic Center in Sundari, the same location from the Clone Wars. We didn't exactly see this location in the Clone Wars series, but we saw many locations like it with the school, the government area, and you can pretty much guess that it's going to look exactly like that, although now it's destroyed. But if we do see a flashback, it'll look like those other places from the Clone Wars Season 5. And that's pretty much it. Let me know if you noticed anything in the comments down below. I hope you guys enjoyed The Mandalorian Season 1. I think it was off to a pretty good start with a little bit of meandering in the middle, but overall I think it was a great start to the season, and I can't wait to see more, so make sure you hit that subscribe button for a whole lot more Mandalorian Season 3 content. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video.